Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio station KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a review of a rather powerful power station made by the Chinese company LIPOWER, L-I-Power, model number MARS-1000 PRO. This unit was sent to me by the manufacturer for review. Rather than hold the good stuff till the end, I thought I'd go through the test results right up front. First, let's take a quick look at the unit. It's large and weighs 29.2 pounds on our bathroom scale. More if you include the accessory bag. Let's look at the specs for this portable power station. It uses a lithium iron phosphate battery and has a capacity of 1120 watt-hours. That's actually a fair amount if you're not using a huge amount of power. However, make note that if you pay for this power through your utility, it would cost you about 25 cents. It will put out 1200 watts of power continuously with a surge to 2000 watts for inductive loads, although this is contradicted by the instruction manual. It puts out a 110 volt sine wave at either 50 or 60 hertz, which is easily switchable. We use 60 hertz here in the United States. It has a series of USB outputs. Two of the standard 5 volt outlets should charge an iPad or charge your phone. It has a USB 3.0 output and a fully capable USB-C output. It also can provide DC voltage at a nominal 12 volts at 8 amps. Note that the solar charger input has to be between 18 and 30 volts. That would seem to imply a 24 volt panel, but when I plugged my 24 volt panel into the unit for charging, I got an overvoltage error. Let's introduce the test equipment we're going to use here. I have one test load that is an 800 watt heater, and another test load that is a standard plug-in type industrial drywall screw shooter. The 800 watt load is mostly resistive. When we apply the 800 watt load, here is what the output looks like on an oscilloscope. Note that it's a nice sine wave, with the exception of one tiny burble on the rising part after the zero crossing. And here is the result of the inductive load. The screw shooter has a variable speed output and is extremely inductive when the trigger is pulled only a little. By inductive, I mean that the inductance comes from the motor windings, which are, after all, coils. The power factor of the screw shooter is certainly not 1.0. It's much less than 1. You will note that it affects the sine wave on the rising part with a bunch of little notches. But it does run the load at full speed, and for that I give it kudos. Note, however, that each of these little burbles means that there will be harmonics on the output. I do not presently have a way of looking at 110 volt output on my spectrum analyzer, but it would show some harmonics. Okay, we show that this thing works and will protect itself when presented with too much charge voltage. Now let's take a closer look, because try as I might to trip this thing up, I couldn't. Let's take a look at the front. The panel is divided into several sections. First is the screen. You can turn on the screen by pressing the button. This will show the total state of charge, will also show the charge input, which is limited to 200 watts, and to show the output power up to 1200 watts. I wish it also showed the power factor, but not many people are familiar with power factor. A power factor other than 1, or unity, means that there is an inductive or capacitive load, usually inductive, and the reactance is storing power and then pushing it back into the power unit. Special features need to be part of the inverter to handle this, and not all so-called sine wave inverters can do this, although this one appears to do it fine. There are 4 sections of outlets. On the left are 3 110 volt outlets that are polarized. Note that there is no connection for the third plug, which is ground. There is also no provision to ground this unit. If you are using this with anything that you are going to be holding, make sure it is double insulated, like my screw shooter is. Next on the left is the charging input. There are two inputs. The top one is a barrel connector and the bottom one is an Anderson power pole. Note that these are 24 volt inputs. Next come the USB outputs. The top one is a USB-C that appears to have all the cool features you might expect from a USB-C. It can coordinate with the device on an appropriate charging voltage and current. Then there is a USB 3.0 connector that has somewhat similar capabilities, and then there are two standard USB 2.0 outlets. On the far right, we have a classic power takeoff, often called a cigarette lighter, although the company calls it a cigar lighter. Of course, it's just the plug. There's no actual cigar lighter here. Above it are two standard barrel-type connectors for 12-volt nominal DC outputs. In the accessory bag, you will find three things. The first is a wall charger with an American 120-volt AC non-polarized plug. The second is a solar panel connection, using industry-standard solar panel connections. The other end is a barrel connector that you can put into the top input of the input section. The third item is a car charger that you can attach to your car, which then goes to the barrel connector at the top of the input section. Note that this implies that the input can be 12 to 14 volts. In addition to these connectors is a black envelope that upon opening contains two items. The first is the instruction manual, and the second is the warranty. Let's look at the warranty first. The warranty is for 2 years for the original purchaser. Exactly how this is exercised, I really don't know, because the unit is heavy enough that it would be very expensive to ship back to China. The second item is the instruction manual. Let's flip through that. Looking at page 1, there is a list of all the items that are included. All the items were there. The solar panel charging is supposed to end in an Anderson power pole, but it does not. Rather, it ends in a barrel connector. The barrel connectors are unfortunate because they will fit both on the input and the 12-volt output. So be careful where you attach the connector. Page 4 talks about the unit recharging time from various input. It takes 5 to 9 hours from a wall outlet to recharge it fully. If you use the 12-volt output in the car, it's 14 to 18 hours, so you will want to keep it attached during your entire drive. With one set of the matching solar panels, it will take 15 to 20 hours. With two sets, it will be 6 to 10 hours, assuming full sun. There are a few pages showing different ways to attach the solar panels. Now a little bit about the usage on page 7. The display button turns on the display for a few seconds so you can see the state of charge. If you want to use the AC section, you have to press it down for 2 seconds to turn on the AC output. Note that if you fast press it 5 times, you will change back and forth between 50 Hz and 60 Hz. Note that in the United States we use 60 Hz. 50 Hz can damage some sensitive equipment, although most electronics these days will take it just fine. Similarly, you have to press the USB button to start all the USB ports working. And of course, the same with the DC section, you have to press the button. Now, know when you press these buttons, you get a little icon on the screen showing either AC out, USB Type-C out, DC out, and it will also tell you if the internal fan in the unit turns on. There's also an icon that will light up if the temperature inside the unit is too high. The fan starts working then to cool it off. There's also an icon with an exclamation point in it that may be followed by an error code. If we go to page 9 of the user's manual, it shows us the error codes and what they mean. Page 10 talks a little bit about how long the power unit will work for various loads. It claims it can recharge your phone 77 times, a laptop 15 times, or you can watch a 70-watt TV for 13 hours. So if you're really doing some major binge watching and you're out in the wilderness away from AC power, this is for you. It claims it will run a 60-watt mini fridge for 15 hours, so this might be valuable for a picnic. This claims it recharges a small drone 23 times. You can also run an 800-watt coffee machine for 90 minutes, or a 15-watt fan for 18 hours. Here's one of interest to me, a CPAP machine for 3 to 8 nights. I ran into a problem with our RV running out of battery before the night was over on my CPAP machine, and we had to start the generator. I've now changed to using a power unit similar to this one to run the CPAP machine when we're camping. Pages 10 and 11 answer some simple FAQs. Page number 14 has some cautions, as does page 15. Now, I want to point out a contradiction on page 10. It has a note in the middle of the page. It says, quote, "Please kindly check if there is an instant start power of your device. A starting power may use 3 times the amount of standard operating power to run the application. Mars-1000 Pro won't run those starting power beyond 1200 watts. This is a direct contradiction to page 2, which promises 2000 watt peak power. In addition, the specs on the bottom of the unit also promise 2000 watts peak power, so it's 2 to 1. Now, I might note in passing that I have reviewed a number of portable power stations. All seem to have about the same features, that is, multiple ways of charging and multiple outputs. My previous experience with these power boxes is that they all have different types of charging cables, so there's no uniformity in charging. Make sure that if you have multiple power stations, that you carefully mark which accessory goes with which power station. Note that you can purchase compatible solar panels from LIPOWER that go with this unit. The battery is lithium iron phosphate. The manual cautions against trying to take it out. I suspect that this means that the battery management system is built into the unit rather than into the battery itself. So I advise not tampering with the battery inside. I think the use case for this device is to power your devices on a camping trip, or if you are too far away from utility power, to run an extension cord. A secondary use case is during a power outage. If this item is only powering LED lights, it can provide enough power for LED lights to light your entire house. One final comment. I did check this for RFI with ham radio. I tuned to a portion of the 40-meter band where there were no signals, and I used my outdoor cobweb antenna. I could not hear any RFI at all with no load, the 800-watt heater load, and the drywall screw shooter's inductive load. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click like. I'd like to thank my patron, Adam Bolton, KD9SPI, for his support of this channel, which helps keeps these videos coming. If you would like to support this channel, you can check out www.patreon.com/KE0OG. Until we next meet, 73.